Bonjour, Anian again. This is part two for the Native Art course through the Red Cliff Outreach site and LCO Ojibwe College. As I'm doing this, I'm having to kind of practice this way, that way, and videotaping this. I made an earlier tape today that was 30 minutes, and when I tried to post it on YouTube, it was too much, so I had to break it down and do two different ones. So hopefully you'll bear with me. I'm not an expert. I'm not a production assistant or anything. Just little old Jimmy Pete from Red Cliff. The next part of the instruction, again, it's based on having to make some alternative arrangements with offering the classes through LCO and Red Cliff Outreach site. Some of them will be on Zoom, some of them will be online, some of them will be maybe a one-on-one with instructors. For myself with the Native Art, I felt that it was better trying to do it this manner with a videotaping of the different pieces, that you would learn if we were in class. And so the next part, in part one, it was about the dream catcher, and we went through, that process, excuse me, and I showed you a couple of different samples. Nawajige ba nawagan nawagwan is how we say dream catcher. The next part, and I'm going to ask you to do two of these, and they're would be considered tobacco pouches or small medicine bags. The way that we say bag or pouch in the Anishinaabe is mushkamod, and then a smaller bag is mushkamodens. And then for medicine, it's mushkiki. So it could be mushkiki, mushkimod, or mishkiki, mushkamodens. And I've been doing this Native Art. I have to sometimes kind of think about, when I actually started at maybe like 8 or 9 years old, taking an interest and then taking it from there and learning from just many, many different people, but also learning as I go along by myself. People will want to know, like, if when making something about a pattern, well, sometimes you have to create your own pattern. And so this is the pattern that I created to do the tobacco pouches. And so you start with, designing your own little piece here, and then from there, taking it to the next step. Now, in doing these types of classes or courses or teachings, sometimes people will just, start right from the beginning with, doing it on leather or whatever materials are going to be used. When my Auntie Jen or Grandma Jen Golson would teach courses and classes, she would actually have the students make first the pattern and then cut the pattern out and utilize felt to make that specific item. So if it was like a tobacco pouch, they would use the felt. If it was moccasins, they would use felt, and they would make those. Then after that is when they would go into making the ones out of the various types of leather. And so what I have here is a piece of felt. So when you're going to do this, of course, you're going to need two pieces, and you'll put those together. And you have your needle, you have your thread. Of course, you're going to knot the thread. What I've also learned in helping to teach this and show is utilizing these bigger items first instead of starting with the small beading needle and the thread. It does help with teaching because people can see that actual process there. And so the first part is with your pouch, because you want to have a little bit on top for the opening, maybe about like your thumb size away. You're going to start the sewing of it, and so you're going to pull that through there. And for the beginning, because this helps secure it, is run that through there like that. So the next part is you go through the material again, and then you kind of loop it. You'll see that that's how this kind of stitching works. There's not quite a controversy, but what is the stitching called, and in the different classes we've had discussions, and some people will call it a cowboy stitch, some people will call it a blanket stitch, but it's one that I feel comfortable using. So when I do most of my kind of work, this is the kind of stitch that I use. When I make moccasins, this is the kind of stitch that I use. And again, you'll see how that pattern is. And then, of course, when you're working on your leather piece for your pouch, you're going to probably want to put them a little bit closer to each other. The closer that it is, the better the product or the pouch looks when you turn it back inside out. So you're going to go along that process and do it like that. And again, in preparing for this type of instruction, I did also make like a sample of this. Okay, so it went from this pattern to this piece here that I sewed together with that blanket stitch. When I got done, or when you get done with that, gently turn it inside out, and then that will give you that pouch that you're making. Now, the one part of this is for the top there, where you have that piece there where you can decide what kind of lacing do you want, and I'll show you on a different piece, but so that when you do it, you can secure it like that. You can close it like that, or if you use this for like tobacco or other elements, you can put that in there, put it like this, and then take another piece, and secure it that way. So then that's one of the pouches. The other one that I wanted to share with you was utilizing the same pattern that I showed you, but then using beading as a way of being able to secure the pouch. And again, what I've learned that helps in teaching this is utilizing these elements like this bigger needle with the artificial sinew, because it can show how things work. So again, as you're starting this out, you thread your needle, put a knot on it, sew it or stitch it, and pull it, so that again that creates a secure part as you start doing this. Now, one of the things as you're going along, it's always trying to be about making decisions. And so for the beaded part, it's deciding what color do you want on sort of the bottom and what color on the top. So in order to start this particular edging, you start with 3 beads, and what I'm starting with is 2 white and 1 red. You bring them down. Again, you look at where you think that it would make a good tight fit. You bring it down, and then you go back through that last white bead that you put on. So then that your first one would look like that. So from now, as you stitch all around, from now you're going to take the red bead and the white bead. So you put it through your material, you bring it back up through that white bead. So if you can see that, you can see how that pattern is starting to take place. After a while, you'll be so used to this that you'll be just doing it automatically. And again, the reason that I like starting out using these bigger pieces is that it can show you. So if you remember when we had the first part of the class and teaching the daisy, beaded daisy chain, I use these crow beads to kind of help teach that, so that after you get going, you can see that it flows back and forth. And again, in order to prepare for this class, I decided, I started with this particular pattern that I created. And then from there, with that edging, I put it on here on the two pieces. And you can either try it on your own or get with me and I'll show you how to do like fringes like this. But here's that beaded pattern, and you'll see that there's the blue that's on the bottom and the black that's on the top as it goes around. What you'll also notice in the different pieces of work that I do is that there is that living up to that and remembering that teaching about putting an odd bead in there, because for me it was shared that by placing that odd bead in there that we're being humble, we're being kind of in serenity. We're doing that so that we don't think that we're being perfect or excellent in sharing or trying to be connected to the Creator in that way, trying to compete with the Creator. And so this was, when I finished it, I thought it turned out pretty good. And then I looked at it and I thought, gee, it's, looks kind of plain. So then what I did was I decided to put this decal under of this magazine, this eagle. If I would have thought about that before I started doing the edging, I would have put it on there, stitched it, sewed a little bit. But what I did was when I got done and put it on there, I did glue it on this pouch, but you can see that. This is another one that I made. Again, the same thing with the pattern, doing the edging. And then from there, deciding what the colors. There is the odd bead that's in there, and then this is a little bit different way of having that that piece on there so that you can use that as a strap. See, this is I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but hopefully you can get an idea from that. Many different ways. This is another one that was given to me by one of our elders, Beverly Vander Moore. She was connected to the Basneys of Redcliffe, and they were always very much into doing the leather work. So this is a pouch that she gave me for my birthday one year when she came up for the Redcliffe powwow. But if you go into the Redcliffe Clinic, you'll see a number of her leather wall hangings that she did, and just did beautiful work. So I was very honored when she gave that to me. Again, it's another way of looking at the pouch and ways to do it. This is another one that was given to me, and they started out with a pattern, but what they did, instead of just two, they put four together, and when they did the beading or the edging, it created this kind of bigger pouch, but still very nice. This is another one that was given to me, and same way where they put together the four pieces and then did the edging and connected them so that it would be a bigger pouch. You notice this beautiful piece of beadwork that's on there, and with their edging, and again I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but what I showed you before with the crow beads is where there's one on the bottom and then one bead on the top. So with this one, this edging, is they got one bead on the bottom and two on top. So again, your own creativity that you can use for that. And this is the ending of part 2. There's going to be a part 3 to share again about the final piece or the final project. So, Gigawabamin.